He's had an unbelievable last 12 months inside and outside of the cage. It is Rhys McKee who defends his Cage Warriors title in a title unification bout against Jimmy Wallhead on the 29th of April right here in Dublin at the 3 Arena. Rhys, my man, it's been a while. How's everything with you, bud? I'm excited for this one because we haven't spoken in quite some time. How's everything with you, bro?
Yeah, it's been a minute. Everything's good. Everything, the truck moves the same as it has for the last few years. So not much has changed, not much exciting. Just the fights are getting bigger and, the opponents are getting a bit better. So it's good fun.
Rhys, we spoke about it off there a little bit with Paul Hughes. We were just having a chat with Paul there. For you guys, it's been quite an incredible time, I feel, again, and we've talked about this the last couple of years, the emergence of the Irish scene. Just talk to me about the year you've just had. Obviously, that stunning fight of the year against Justin Burlinson, an incredible fight. I think Cage Warriors voted for this fight as the year, and rightly so. It was absolutely incredible. You've got married to your lovely fiancée Rebecca. You've a thriving gym. You've been promoting fights. Just speak to me about the year. There's a lot you can take from that year, sort of inside and outside of the cage. How has it been for you? How has the year gone?
Yeah, a really good year, really successful year. Personal, gym-wise, fight-wise, it was all successful. It was all a good year. But it's been good. But there's always this time. It's time to come back to what we do best, and that's fighting. Running the gym's fine. Running the shows is fantastic. But first and foremost, fighting is the one that made all these things possible. So it's nice to get back to a fight for sure.
And speak to me about that. Obviously, I know you didn't sustain the injury in the fight, but you got a shoulder injury shortly after. I think it was rolling with Norman Park. How is the shoulder now, man, ahead of April?
Yeah, but you know what? It's perfect. It's if I'm being really honest, I probably could have snuck a fight in a bit earlier. But I just knew with having the build, I want it to be 110%. I didn't want any guesswork. And the shoulder's fine. The shoulder's, it's been well tested for the last 6 to 8 weeks. And it's really ready for a fight now. I would say it's ready for fight prep, but it could fight. That's where it's at. And this. It's time for it to go. There's only so long that you can sit and watch people fighting.
Yeah.
And, there's an interim title now at stake, and that's time for the champ to come back and do what he does best.
Definitely, man. And, something I've sort of thought after that fight against Justin Burns, it was obviously a very, very tough bout. You took a lot of damage after that fight. It's sometimes good maybe to sit out for that little bit of time as well. Heal up 100%, get back in there, have a little bit of perspective on the fight that's just happened. Is that the way you sort of feel about it as well? It's been a nice sort of time out, and it actually even makes you maybe possibly even hungrier.
Yeah, if it's possible to get hunger, it's definitely made me that bit. I wanted to defend the New Year's Eve, and I was quite vocal with that with Cage Warriors, and the plan was to defend New Year's Eve, but it was just, what's the point risking something that I've worked so hard to get, and to get that momentum of a fight win and then get another, and it'd be daft to go too early. So yeah, it's been a perfect break. As it's called, it's a break by name, but I've been training. Even when I was doing rehab, I was always doing what I could. It's not as if I've been away from anything. I'm very much been in the gym as much as always, but now it is a break by name, but we're ready to go.
How taxing was that, Rhys? Obviously, physically, it was quite taxing with some of the scars you took. You got stitched up. It was obviously a very, very tough fight. Is it taxing physically as it is mentally on you, a fight like that? To just time to heal, to get over it, and sort of look back on what's just taken place, especially in the nature of that fight, because obviously, as we said, it was fight of the year.
I think, if I'm being honest, mentally I've been thriving since that fight. I was able to be in that type of fight, overcome the adversity, climb out of it. From the depths of defeat, I went to win. Mentally I've been thriving. The injury was mental. Don't get me wrong, it was mentally challenging. Days I thought it was ahead, I tried to push it and then got pulled back. That was mentally challenging, but it's very much been more physical with the scars. I sparred a bit too early, and then the shoulder happened, so that made me take the break for the scars. Where now everything's perfect, so we're in the best position possible now, and we're not starting fight camp half injured, half not injured. We are perfect here. We're ready to go.
Digging so deep as well in that fight, overcoming the adversity. you know, I look at that fight and I just go, like, I know obviously having covered you for so long, and I've seen you in spots outside of the cage going into fights, and you dealing with that mental pressure, especially obviously when your father passed away 2 weeks before that Bama fight in Dublin. It's a testament, I feel, to how mature and how able mentally you are. But digging so deep in that fight, that must give you some serious extra confidence to know you can pull it out of the bag when you're under that sort of pressure in a scrap.
Yeah, like it's really hard to describe, because like when I was in that fight, like, I knew it was close, and I heard the ref shouting, "You have to work." But like for me, I was always going to win the fight. Like I was always like, I was always going to come up and find the way to victory, and that's the thing. It's like up until a ref would say stop, I'm never thinking this is about to be finished. I remember me and Justin got up at the first, and I just kind of chuckled at him and said, "That's one round over." And the way I looked at it, that was like, "You're going to have to do that again and again and again and one more time to win." Like, I am a hard person to second. Like, and anybody that's trained with me will tell you, like, I keep coming and coming and coming. Like, so, like, to finish me, it takes a hell of a lot. But I never even thought about it against Justin. I never thought, like, you know, the crowd went a bit quiet, but for me, like I always know I have that route to victory, and I always know I have the touch of death, as Donald calls it. And
That's it. I was going to mention that later. That we'll talk about that in a minute, as we've talked about for years. But listen to me, looking back on that fight now, and knowing you, I feel as though maybe you might have been a little bit disappointed with that performance. Looking back now in hindsight, are you?
It wasn't the perfect performance. I was in Belfast, but again, Justin was very good. Justin was the fight that nobody wanted. Nobody will admit it, but nobody wanted that fight. Even going into that fight myself, I knew it was one of them fights. A loss would set one of us back. It wasn't an easy fight to take, but I knew if I got rid of Justin here, the glory would be on the other side. Um, so like, yes, the performance wasn't as clean as it could have been or should have been, but we got it done, and that's really what matters. But I learned a lot about that fight. I learned a lot about myself, and Justin's a hell of an opponent, and I think we're going to see him, run for his next opponent, and again, it'll show how impressive it was to beat him again.
What did you learn? What was the most positive sort of thing you took out of that bout, Rhys?
I mean, I think what won me the fight was experience. Me and Pat watched Justin a few weeks before, or the week of the fight. Sorry, we watched a few of his fights, and no disrespect to Justin, but he's a bit fresher in his career, and he made mistakes that we knew he would make. And there's one mistake in my fight and his that won me the fight. It was when everything changed, and I just knew that, obviously my performance wasn't perfect, but there wasn't many experience mistakes. And I'm only 27, but this is my 18th professional fight I'm moving into. I'm a veteran of the game. I have a lot of fights and a lot of experience, and I know we're probably going to talk about Jimmy's experience, but I ain't fresh to the water myself. I mean, I've had a lot of fights, and people forget that. And I think the difference between me and Justin was experience, and I was able to use that and know when to push and know when to pull back, and change things and work in the job, so to speak.
Rhys, I'm going to ask you this one, and maybe I don't know, maybe someone's asked this in the past, but do you feel as though maybe, and I've sort of maybe said this to you a little bit of times, maybe off air and stuff, that maybe I feel as though you start fights a little bit too slowly? Is that fair to say, that you sort of come into it as it goes on? You give yourself, you like almost to give yourself a job to do in the fight, because even if we look back, the Alex Morono fight, I think you got into that fight the more it went on in the UFC. We've looked at other fights. I know you were obviously very sick the night you lost to Tim Barnett, and then obviously went on back to beat him. But do you feel as though maybe you come out a little bit cold in big fights?
Yeah, absolutely. If I was to give my opponents any blueprint to beat me, here it is. It's in the first 2 minutes. So you have
we'll have to cut this out, Rhys. We'll have to cut this bit out.
Keep it in. I'm confident I'll get through it. The first 2 minutes is the best chance to beat me. Once we go past the 2 minute mark, I'm well and truly you're happiness those as I've moved to like this kind of part of my career. I'm in the later events. the holding back long, the walking time's a bit longer. Then you do the announcements in the cage. So like, there's a natural 15-minute window from the changing room to fight time. So yeah, like I can't disagree. But like what makes it easy, I've still won a lot of those fights that we're talking about. So
100%, man.
Yeah.
100%.
Every superhero has an antidote.
Well, there you go, Rhys. That's the way it works out. Was there ever a point, man, and I look at this mentally, and as I said to you, I really admire that about you're incredibly mentally strong. Was there ever a point where you went, you've obviously lots going on outside of the cage as well, obviously with the fantastic gym you've been running for the last 3 years, but getting sort of cut from the UFC at that point in your career, young career, we often see guys, when they reach the UFC and maybe it doesn't go their way, they sort of just disappear and they don't fight again. Obviously, Brandon Moreno, I think, is a brilliant example of why these guys should get back in there and go again if it doesn't go right the first time in the UFC. Was there ever a point where you felt as though, fuck this, I'm walking away from this sport because of what you have basically going on outside of the cage?
Like, this is probably like the misconception. Like, I do all the stuff outside of fighting because fighting's gave me the life to do so. Fighting's very much created the life I have, so like I owe a lot to fighting. Another reason why I love fighting so much is I don't need fighting to succeed in life. I don't need, I'm not fighting for a paycheck. I'm lucky I've set myself up in life, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so hard to stick in. And it's not like do or die with this. If I lose this fight, I die. My family don't eat. That's not like that. I have stuff set up. That doesn't mean I'm nowhere near as hungry. It just means that like people will come into this fight, this is what they're going to say the whole fight camp: Jimmy has nothing to lose and you have it all to lose. I have nothing to lose. I'm already winning. I have already won this one, not the fight, but I'm already winning a life. I couldn't be in a better position. I win this fight, I go back to the UFC. Like it's a fantastic situation, but I'm not fighting for a paycheck, or I'm not scared not scared of the result. That's when fighters are in a dangerous and vulnerable position, and I'm never in that position.
Talk to me about that, like the 3 Arena, man, because you've obviously had, as I said there, you've had some incredibly special nights there. What does it mean to go back there with Cage Warriors, especially with the strap? I think it's going to be an incredible night. You've a special relationship, I think, with the Dublin crowd as well. We know how noisy the Dublin crowd are. That must give you sort of, goosebumps when you think about going back there, especially at this point, I feel, in your career as well, having been in the UFC and having done what you've done with Cage Warriors since you've come back into Cage Warriors.
Yeah, like, everybody talks about how good Belfast was, and Belfast, it was amazing, of course, but like Dublin's where I cut my teeth. I made my pro debut against John Redmond in the Free Arena. I went on. I'm unbeaten in that arena. I drew once in the rest. Like, Free Arena is a special in my heart, and in every possible Free Arena. And to be able to come back, what I feel for is the real party, the real send off on the 29th of April is going to be. It's a special night, like, and I really do put it up there with Belfast.
Talk to me about that. Obviously you've mentioned there Jimmy Wallhead. It's a defining moment. He's a UFC vet also. I agree with you to a certain extent in what you just said there, in terms of the way people are going to perceive the fight. They're going to go, oh, Jimmy has nothing to lose here. You've everything to lose. How do you look at Jimmy? And because if he does lose this fight, a lot of people are going to think, he's going to walk away from the sport, being his age, where he is, what he's done in his fight career. Are you looking to just sort of go out here and retire this guy?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. No ifs and buts about it. Jimmy's coming here to spoil the train I have. He knows I'm bound for the UFC, and he's trying to stop it just as it's about to check in. And I'm there hoping to send him into retirement and, back to just whatever he does, but fighting's not going to be a part of it. 100%. That's what we're both trying to do. We're, as much as we're men and we're martial artists and we're whatever, we're dream crushers as well. So I'm not trying to give him his fairy tale ending, and he's not trying to give me mine, and that's fine. We're allowed to do that. We have the People's Forum, and it's going to be in the cage in Dublin. So absolutely, I'm trying to send him to retirement, and he's trying to crush my dream. Absolutely.
Rhys, how much does the crowd factor in to this fight? Because we know how mental Dublin is, and I think with you headlining this time, I think everyone's going to get behind you a lot more possibly than in previous years, because obviously your UFC stint, as we've talked about, this is going to be really, really tough, hostile territory for Jimmy Wallhead to come into. Are they going to play a huge factor in the outcome of this fight?
I don't think so. It'll be amazing. It'll be special. It'll be special for Jimmy. It'll be special for me. But I don't think that has the makings to change the result. I think, if you put me and Jimmy in a fight in a car park, we'd have a hell of a fight. So I think the amount of experience we both bring to the cage, I think it'll very be the magic inside the cage. And I said this in another interview. This is very much so. You play the fight, not the occasion. You play the game, not the occasion. You can't get caught up too much in the magic outside the octagon, but it's about what goes on inside it that's the magic.
100%. And I think, when we look at this fight, and I think when everyone looks at this fight in terms of what Cage Warriors have done in the past, in terms of, unifying titles and having these sort of UFC veteran fights, for me, it's a no-brainer. The winner of this fight is back in the UFC. Is this what? Obviously, I know you feel that way, but have you been given any assurances? I know Graham said maybe one more win and you're back in there. Is this the fight where you get back to where you want to be?
Yeah, I think it's not like no official confirmation, but I think it's my view, it's everybody else's in the world's view. The only view that really probably matters is it the UFC's, but one way to find out is to go out and win the fight in the best way I can, and we'll soon see what they want to do. But in my opinion, that's what will happen next, and that's very much where I'm thinking about that anyway. 12
finishes in your 12 wins. It's bonkers, and I've always said this. However, whatever they were thinking when they let you go the first time is beyond me. Is there still that massive chip on your shoulder to prove these guys wrong?
I wouldn't say a chip on my shoulder or any ill feelings towards them like that. I understand that, I think when they want me to come in and hit the ground running, I believe that, 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was, when I got cut, I believe that they just didn't want to take the risk of maybe I wasn't developed as much as I could be. And, now, I'm grateful for what they've done in terms of giving me that chance to go develop, that chance to learn more about myself, because when they sign me again, they're truly signing a different beast than what they got the first time. So, in a way, I'm grateful of what's happened.
I agree, Rhys. I was just about to say that to you. I think if you're to be pitted in against someone like Alex Morono now, from what we've seen in your development over the last 2 years, I think the fight's a different result.
Totally different result. If there's one I could get back, it would be Morono. I'd love to fight him again.
Does that eat you up?
It doesn't. You know what? Maybe it does, because I've never watched the fight, because I just know it's so. I know it's so different, but at the same time, I hope opponents go and watch it. I hope people do study in them fights and waste their time analyzing this fight, and this happens when he does this and he's to this and he's to that, or he doesn't do this. Please analyze them fights, because they are so incorrect.
I agree. Is there still a possibility, and maybe I'm talking a little bit of shite here, but I listened to an interview with you there recently, and you said, you're still always going to be ready if the big show come knocking. Is there still a possibility if someone pulls out of a fight in London that, the UFC came knocking, Rhys McKee, obviously think the card's 17th of March, Paddy's weekend, your fight's on in April. Is there a possibility that you still might have fought your last fight for Cage Warriors if that, comes about?
I mean, if we were to look before I fought Hamzat, you would have said there was no possibility, and
exactly
that one done. So, I can't sit here and say that there's no possibility of that. I do know the first person I probably think about when I wake up would be the Jimmy Wallhead fight. It would be UFC London. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's an opportunity, but right now in my mind, if the 18th of March happens or 17th of March, my phone will be on loud and clear. But no, I'm preparing for Dublin, and there's part of me that also thinks that an offer in London wouldn't be enough to get me over the line and away from Dublin. I feel like this fight with Jimmy will do a lot for my career. This win will do a lot for my career. This is a real changing of the arms for me, and part of me thinks that even if that London offer came in, that it'd be hard to say to Dublin that I'm not going to be there.
I, I,
I
t-
mean that genuinely. I feel like I really want this one. I know I really want this one. This is the one. This is the one that people will stand up and go, yeah, there's no question.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's going to be, as we talked about, the crowd's going to seriously be in full voice that night. Cage Warriors returning to the Three Arena. I absolutely can't wait for that. Listen, I reckon as well, obviously with PFL, they're making a lot of moves around the place. You know, they've signed a lot of Irish talent over the last sort of couple of years. I reckon there's been offers in from PFL for you as well. Can you say anything about that? Listen, a talent like you, there must have 100% in my mind, and we haven't even talked about this off air. So yeah. I'm throwing this at you now, but there must have been offers from them, I reckon.
I'll be honest, I've been offered contracts with every promotion that you probably think. You know, offered some really, really lucrative deals. But again, it comes back to my vision, and you know, I'm not fighting here just for money. This is like, we all need rewarded for what we do, of course, especially if you're good at it. But like, this is not like my do or die. You know, like this is for passion. This is for the love of the game. This is for reaching where nobody else can go, and that's the UFC. I've had offers from everyone in like pretty much every major promotion in the world, and you know, if I felt it was a detour to the UFC, you know, that's when the talk stopped. So yeah, that's, anybody who knows my stance. You know, go out on your shield or come back on it, and that's where I'm at.
Very admirable, and I think not enough guys actually stick by that and go at what their vision is, because we all know where most 99% of mixed martial arts want to be, and it's obviously in the UFC, Rhys. Okay, right. Touch of death time. How's this fight going to finish, Rhys? You know, how do you see this going? Obviously, Jimmy's, you know, he's a tough UFC vet, strong everywhere, very durable, but can he handle what Rhys McKee has to bring to the Three Arena?
You know, it's like Jimmy's tough. He's been about. He's, you know, he got the T-shirt. He's wore it twice. That type of style. You know, I'm looking forward to being tested by Jimmy. I'm looking forward to feeling his experience. But the real difference, I believe, in this fight is the generations. You know, like, we are in the new breed, the next generation of martial arts, and I believe that'll be the difference. The touch of death will definitely play a part, and we all know the touch of death. But you know, it doesn't go away, whether it's the first round or the fifth round. You know, there's a lot of exciting possible opportunities in this fight of where I can win. You know, so I'm just super excited to be in against someone of that experience, where I know it's going to come down to like really taking them moments and just thriving for the win. I'm just, yeah, I can't wait.
Is there a final message for the Dublin crowd, Rhys, and to create that sort of incredible atmosphere that we know they can? Is there a message for the Dublin crowd?
You know what? I don't think the Dublin crowd need a message. I just think they need to know that I'm coming there. The touch of death's coming. You know, I think everyone there, all the Irish fighters are going to be well supported. You know, the Dublin crowd don't even need a message. That's the scary thing. I was watching Peter Quilley's walkout.
Unbelievable.
I had goosebumps for about 2 hours after it. So, you know, it's just ridiculous what they bring. But you know, I'll bring the entertainment if they bring the voice.
I'm sure they will, Rhys. I don't think, you know, I think you'll bring it as well. You always do in your fights. They're never a dull moment. But tell me that, right? You've talked about the walkout tunes. Anything special lined up for a walkout tune on Three Arena on 29th?
I haven't thought about it yet. I mean, you know what? Like, this one is very much like business. This is business first. You know, I know how big this win is. I feel when I get to the 29th and that evening when I'm about to walk, that'll be like, right, let's get this done. Let's get out of here and let's move on to where we're made for. And I don't think I'll be waiting too long behind the curtain, put it that way. It's down to business and let's get this one done. One
final one. I meant to ask you this one earlier. How good has your wrestling become? I know you've been working a lot with the lads in FAI. You've sort of been going around a lot of gyms, sort of. I think your sort of take is that you know, you're all sort of in this together. You sort of hop around, and iron sharpens iron, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I've noticed that your grappling has really come on in recent years to a level now where you look so much more physically imposing. And I'll probably go back to the Terry Brazier fight when you sort of got overwhelmed by his wrestling in that fight. how good have you become since that moment? You've just become so much more, as I said there, physically dominant, and your prowess is a lot greater, I feel, in the cage now.
Yeah, I think if I'm being honest, looking back, I've probably been fighting at the wrong weight class. I was probably fighting in the wrong weight class at 155 for maybe the last year and a half, 2 years of my career. I think when I went to welterweight, I realised what it was like to have energy. I realised what it was like to do a training camp where you could still lift weights, you could still eat more food. So, I was able to learn more skills, I was able to do more sessions, I was able to not get injured, I was able to not be moody all the time. Like, my whole life changed when I fought in the right weight class. The wrestling, like, anybody will tell you, when Rhys is carved up and well fed, I can wrestle with the best of them.
Could you go to middleweight at the moment? Do you feel it? Is that that's obviously an option, I think, now. It's mad to think, right, that you fought at 145. I still it sort of blows my mind.
Well, I made my amateur debut at 125.
Wow. Jesus Christ.
Well, I think on the scales this morning I was 199 pounds.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, I could fight at middleweight. I wouldn't fight at middleweight right now, but I could. Yeah, welterweight's perfect. Welterweight's the home for me. It's not a massive killing weight cut either. It's just nice.
Yeah, I remember. Obviously, we've done a weight cut. I sat in the Terry Brazier fight, that documentary we did together, and mother of God, man, I don't know how you actually thinking about it now. How you cut down to that weight? It was quite crazy.
Hectic.
Rhys McKee, what a pleasure, my man. Listen, I'm really looking forward to seeing this fight and what's next for you. It's been a pleasure, obviously, covering you since your amateur days, and I do really respect the way you conduct yourself inside and outside the cage. A pleasure as always, my man.
I appreciate it. I always appreciate your time.
If you want to see more videos like this, do hit the subscribe button and also the notification button so you don't miss any future updates. You can also catch us on social media and also give the video a thumbs up. It does help. Thanks, guys.